my end.
Yes, yeah, and it says going live, going live, going live. You're live. Hello and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. By gosh, here we are. We got a great show for you tonight. Atlantis, Decoding Atlantis, Part 3. And tonight I got great guests, my co-host, Dalibor. Thank you for coming. And our special guest, Veronica Bartolini, who's going to be with us in just a second. So don't you worry, everybody. We're going to have a great night for you. We're going to talk about Atlantis and all the things that we learned from the last few episodes. And then we're going to put them with what we're learning tonight with the new ideas and put it all together. So how you been, Dalibor?
Well, pretty much the usual. It's getting kind of hot here in Germany. It's like it was 31 degrees this past week, 31 degrees Celsius. So, kind of on the hot side. I don't know how much that is in Fahrenheit, but I just found out an interesting thing about Atlantis, speaking of which, and that is that just like you have the Great Pyramid of Egypt, and in the desert, you have the same set of pyramids on Mars.
Yes.
And that's also technically a desert. And what's really interesting is the fact that when you look at Mars in the sky, it looks like a tan dot. It's the color of sand. And it's the same color of sand that you see not only in Egypt, but also on Mars. Now, get this, the Egyptian word or Arabic word for Mars is Al-Qahira. And Al-Qahira is the same word as for Cairo. Okay. Now, as if that wasn't enough, I just heard today that there was also an Atlantis discovered on Mars. That there wasn't just an Atlantis on Earth, but there was also one on Mars. So that's something I've never heard before. But since there have been all these different discoveries of geological artifacts on Mars that correspond to the same ones that we have here on Earth, like the Great Pyramid and stuff, it's not so far-fetched.
Yes, that is so true. And I am trying really hard to find a picture of what you're talking about, because I know exactly what you're talking about. The ones that line up with the okay, here we go.
We know that Mars had an atmosphere up until like relatively recently, like maybe could have been last million years. Yes. Now, the download I got when I visited the Great Pyramid in 2013 was it is not 5,500 years old. You got to add a couple of zeros. That was the download that I got when I was entering the Great Pyramid, and it just felt right that this thing is way older than they've been saying. It's probably about 500,000 years old.
Yes, and this is right here. The three pyramids that you see here. This is Egypt. These are the ones on Egypt, and I'm trying to find the ones on Mars here.
And notice that it has the same tan color.
Yes, they do. Well, Egypt. The name Egypt. What is the name? You talked about that, didn't you? Egypt is a word for oh gosh, I can't remember. Something with Mars. I read this somewhere.
Well, the original word for Egypt was actually Chem or Chemet, and that's from where alchemy is derived. Alchemy literally means that which came from Egypt. Yes. And a lot of our words come from ancient Egyptian, like the word for alcohol actually comes from the word for coal, which they used to, in ancient Egypt, what they used to do is they used to take coal, grind it up really finely, and add it to alcohol, and then put it around their eyes as makeup to keep from getting glare from the sun.
Okay, I think this is the picture they were talking about on
That's
Mars.
The DNM pyramid. That's the 5-sided pyramid up top. That's the DNM pyramid. And those angles between those pyramids correspond exactly with the angles in the constellation of Orion and some of the pyramids and major landmarks on Earth,
Yeah.
according to research done by Carlotto and Di Pietro.
Yeah. There we
That's
go.
why it's called the DNM pyramid. That's the Di Pietro and Molinar.
DNM pyramid right there. Yeah.
That's it.
That is so cool. That is so neat. Okay, well, thank you, Veronica Bartolini. There we go. I said it right this time. I said it right earlier, but then you weren't there.
I was listening.
Yes, I know. I'm glad you could make it, and I'm so happy you're here. We were just going on, I know about this, and Dalibor found out this new information about Egypt and the pyramids on Mars and how they all correspond here. So I had to put it up and do some showing.
If you click on like that one over there, which that link from thepast.com, yes, with the angles, that goes into like the relationship between. Oh, no, that's something else.
Okay.
But if you look up anything that delves into the angles between the various structures, you'll see that they correspond with the angles between the various artifacts on Mars.
Yes. I remember, like it says, I seen those ones. I know there's a picture out there that shows. Oh, maybe this is it.
And you see the same angles in Mexico City.
I'm sure there's some in Yucatan as well.
Yes. Yucatan, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
all seem to align somewhere along the line. It's
specifically
crazy.
Teotihuacan, which is about 50 kilometers north of Mexico City.
There's some in Peru also. My take on the pyramids, since I've been studying a lot of Dashianadine thing, and they have a system, a technology system called the 666, which is the beast. And I remote viewed it under Antarctica, but it could have changed it a little bit. Now, the blue pyramid there, then they have a black pyramid in Saturn. And these pyramids, to me, speak volumes, because the way they had to anchor in Mother Earth, I see, is that, they went through Jupiter. Actually, they went through Saturn. I think it's either Jupiter or Saturn. Shoot. And then they went to the moon, and then here. So it's kind of like a three, like a triangle, but it's used for the technology. And also there are some beings that are in the Oisidex and the Phantom Matrix. If you look up the old Superman, where L'Oreal, L's, all the L's, they were going to destroy Gate 12, I believe. And L'Oreal said, well, I'm going to tell everybody here on this planet that we're going to be destroyed. And one of the chiefs said, no, if you do, we're going to incarcerate you and your wife. So he made Superman, which if you look at the actual ship that he's in when he's sent to Earth, it's 12 stars, 6 on the bottom and 6 on the top, like kind of like pyramid shapes as well. And that also signifies the 12 strands, the the DNA codes and all that. And they made a perfect person, which was Superman, which is pretty much us. Kind of like if you look up who Yeshua 12 is, who the crystalline beings are, well, they pretty much took us, what I call the bioluminescence, our essence. We are like the planets, asteroids, stars, galaxies. So somehow we're crystalline technology to them. And somehow that's how they make our phones. They're sentient beings. We can get into that later, but as far as the way they ground Mother Earth with these pyramids, and also they have to use these pyramids for technology. Some people do say that they're like spaceships that they can take off anytime. I'm pretty sure. If you look at the movie Stargate 1, actually Stargate, the original movie in the 80s, I believe, or 90s too, and we all travel through wormholes and arcs. So the whole Noah's Ark thing was not really a ship, it was an ark going through the wormhole. That's how they brought us all here to Earth from the Atlantean times. And you're right, Dalibor.
Yeah.
You know, like for example, Ashkenazim talks about the first human seeding was 25 million years ago. And then it goes down to the second seeding 4 million years ago, seals of Amenti, seals of Pallador, which involves Cyrus B, Earth. And then we have, you know, they go into the Draco's fourth root races. Then they going down now. Here, the third seeding was 848 million years ago. And then this is where the Ark of the Covenant, where the Dracos, Nephilim come in, as well with the Melchizedek, the Anunnaki. Anyway, it's just a lot of information.
Well, isn't it interesting that the same word is used to describe a ship as opposed to a vessel for carrying the covenant? Like, why is it the Ark of the Covenant and then there's Noah's Ark? Same word. You know, it would be interesting to find out what the original word would be in Hebrew for ark.
Well, in Spanish, arco is like arco, arc, like arcoiris, the rainbow arcoiris. And if you look at Saturn, why is it that they have the rings on Saturn? They captivated Saturn, okay? That's their main, I believe it's their main energy source. Some people say that it was our original sun. And, you know, and that they brought the moon. I think it's George Cavasilas that talks about how they brought in the moon and it was, you know, female. They took all her crystals out and things like that. And then later on, I believe it was Moses or Noah, one of those had, their father was the moon. And a lot of, I believe people in Iraq worship the moon and they call it father. So there's a lot of.
It's interesting. Interesting that you know, like for example, in Spanish, the words for moon and earth are feminine, whereas the word for sun is masculine. It's el sol, la luna, la tierra. Whereas, for example, in my language, which is Czech, it's the opposite. It's like the moon is masculine, the earth is feminine, and the sun is neutral. So you know that goes to show like a different understanding of the polarities. But in either case, you never have like just two polarities, just positive and negative. You need a positive, a negative, and a zero, or a neutral. So, and a lot of languages have it structured that way too.
Speaking of language, I got it for you. See, I'm driving the bus. You wanted to know ark in the Hebrew word. Definition: ark is derived from the Latin word arca, meaning chest, which is akin to the Latin verb arcere, meaning the whole, to hold, off, or defend. These Latin roots give us the ark, the use of ark to refer to the sacred chest representing the Hebrews' presence of God among them, also responsibly in tradition it is in. Okay, so then I looked up covenant, ark of the covenant.
Yeah, that would be Brit in Hebrew. In Hebrew, covenant is Brit.
Brit. Oh, okay.
Well,
yeah,
Brit, you know when you say Brit?
Treaty, compact, agreement between two parties. So there you go. So
that's why B'nai Brit means, yeah, it even says, yeah, Brit in Hebrew. That's why you have B'nai Brit, which means the sons of the covenant in Hebrew.
Okay.
You know, when you mention the word Brit, what I get is chip. You know how they make us into little chips? And I talk a lot about G Mafia because, you know, Google has our personal itinerary, what we're doing. Facebook, you know, everybody knows what you're eating, what you're doing, what you look like. They're pretty much using all of our information and putting us into like a little chip and avatar where they can expand us wherever our location is, and then they can play like the God Wars that I talk about. They could play with our avatars and they sell our information. They don't care. So it's
Of
like
course.
when you said brick, that's like they're putting us, it's like you're putting us in little chips or whatever, and then you're moving us in an arc, right? And
Mhm.
then we're all coming together here. So it's it's just a lot of things that
Well,
I think.
it's Brit, as in maybe that could be the word origin for Britain. Britain, something to do with covenant, the country. So, and some people say that the Queen of England actually sits on the original Solomon's throne. I've heard it said.
That's
I don't know
crazy.
what's necessarily true about that, but getting back to the whole pyramid thing, in fact is that those pyramids are remnants of an unknown technology that works based on principles that we still do not understand to this day, that we can't measure using our scientific instruments. We have no way of really finding out how they work. We just know that they do work because I've done my own experiments using scale models of the Great Pyramid aligned to true north, and I've demonstrated things like change in angular momentum of a spinning gyroscope inside a pyramid versus a control box, change in gravity, believe it or not, even though the effects are very, very small. It's only about 0.02%, but still it's there and it shouldn't be there. The most dramatic effects that I've noticed were effects on seed germination. It's the same difference as when people do the rice experiment, where you take 3 different jars of rice, you concentrate like negative energy on one, nothing on the other, and love energy on the third one. And the ones that have the concentration of like the love energy are going to be like all nice and white, whereas the other ones are going to be all moldy. So it's something like that. Basically, if you put a human inside a scale model of the pyramid, and you do a blood test on them 15 minutes before entering the pyramid and then 15 minutes afterwards, all those blood values are changed. Like the triglycerides, the LDL, HDL, all that is changed towards like a better value. In other words, it adjusts those values to be more beneficial towards human life. So it's designed to facilitate the expression and flourishing of the life force, not necessarily human, all life force. So basically, it's a remnant that survived like all these millions of years, hundreds of thousands of years, maybe millions of years, and it serves as a reminder of a civilization that we're all descended from, basically.
Yeah, what I get when you talk about all this is pretty much we are the crystalline technology. We're crystals.
Sure.
So some of us are in human form right now. Some of us are in cat form or in dog form. And why is it that when you give that your beautiful pet, I don't like to call them pets because I just feel like they're masters pretty much because they don't have to talk, right? They do the telepathy. When you give them so much love, you can formulate a cat to love you or hate you. It's like you get what you give. Like with the Asian guy, I think he's a Japanese doctor or something like that. Where same thing with the rice that you're talking about, Dalibor. He did the water experiment and he told one of it, "You're bad," and then there's like a little monito, what do you call it, a little figurine with a gun, and I'm like, it's and of course, our how we speak, our tongue, it's a double-edged sword. You can either build someone up or tear them down. So to me, this whole thing of being in this human form has been really hard because my language is love. And there's
Interesting.
power in love.
Yes, it's interesting what you mentioned about the crystalline aspect of life, that yes, we are based on carbon, and carbon does exist in some forms as a crystal. Which is also interesting in that we, as a collective human species, are working on creating a different life form that's based on silicon. And silicon and carbon are right underneath each. Silicon is right underneath carbon in the periodic table of the elements. It also has like 4 valence electrons, and it's also interesting in that it's an inert element, but despite the fact that it's inert, you never find it on Earth in its native form. You never find like native silicon. It's always mixed with something else, like oxygen in the form of silicon dioxide, the most abundant mineral on Earth, or carbon in the form of carbon dioxide, which is a gas, or some carbon compound.
Well, it's because we all come from outer space. Well, most of us.
Well, yeah.
Shooting stars, and then we somehow inhabited this body. So it's we have to remember that we're more powerful than they want us to ever think of. Going back to this art thing, when I was in fourth grade, I was selected to take this. I won this thing, I did the states and capitals all perfect or whatever. And it was me and another young boy in fourth grade. They took us to see the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I was so impressed by it, and it's just like, why, all this training, these things that they have you do as children for whatever projects they want is just interesting. And it's up to us to find out what is the truth for us, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's what you take away from it. It's the one thing I have against the modern educational system is that it uses the cookie cutter approach, that all the children are taught the same thing and they're expected to memorize the same things as all the other kids, and everybody's expected to be equally as good as everybody else in all the subjects, which makes no sense. I always point out, like, would you expect somebody like Beethoven to excel in something like biology or physics? No. No, because he was Beethoven.
Yeah, because some people are just good at certain things.
Exactly.
I know I used to have a crew of guys, and if you put the right guy on the right job, you would get the job done. If you put the wrong guy there, you'd be waiting all day.
Exactly. And like I said, it's based on what you take away from that educational experience and what you incorporate into your own repertoire of knowledge that you use on a daily basis. Like, even when I was in high school, I knew that I would never use some of these subjects that I was forced to learn, and as a matter of fact, the only subject I ever did flunk, and I was the only person to have flunked it in like many years, was physical education.
I'm right there with you.
I flunked phys ed. I actually flunked phys ed.
How?
Yeah, I know. How? I just couldn't do it. And I had no like medical reason for my ineptitude and my lack of coordination and lack of motivation. And, still to this day, I don't consider myself stupid by any means, but I've never been able to learn how to play any of these sports. So anytime we were forced to like play football, I always told the guys, like, don't throw the ball to me because I don't know what to do with it. I just ran where everybody else was running. And
so are you more of like the logical side?
Both because
you are creative as well, right?
Yes, both, because I scored 620 and 630 on my SAT. So I'm pretty much well balanced and I can write with both hands. I'm ambidextrous.
That's awesome.
So
that's amazing. Wow, now I don't feel so bad of flunking physical education class. I mean, I did. I mean, here I am. I'm the same way. I was like, I'm a big, strong, tough guy. I'm, riding horses and working on the farm. I'm a lumberjack and things like that. But yet I failed physical education class. Go figure. Who would have thought?
I know.
But I like, just like you, I didn't understand the games.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I didn't. And then like when we played baseball stuff, they just look at me and go, just you're the all-time catcher. Just be the catcher. We don't even want you out here, because nobody wanted to pick me because I couldn't figure out who to throw the ball to and what was going on. I'm looking around like, I don't know.
Yeah, it makes no sense because it's an artificial construct and you know that you're never, ever going to have to use it in your daily life. Like, for example, there were some things that I learned in high school that kind of stuck with me, but not necessarily. Like, for example, literature. But then again, have I ever been at a job interview where they told me, well, we really like your qualifications, Mr. Suchy, but you think you could recite a couple of lines of Shakespeare? Never going to happen.
Veronica, you're stuck with two geeks.
Yeah.
By which you call a rose, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, what is that noise? Is that sorry. I guess
Oh,
my
that wasn't that. That was must be you because it wasn't me.
that's weird.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So the spirits are talking to us tonight. Okay,
I
Dalibor.
go by I go a lot by omens.
Yeah,
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too.
yeah.
I'm also a traveler 1800 from Andromeda. So I have coins that I have sent myself via other people. I have different things from different eras that I have found, and either outside or at a Goodwill. Even when I was a kid, I would walk around the neighborhood and there was a silver, beautiful red turquoise, blue turquoise ring, bracelets, necklaces, earrings, you name it. I mean, it's like, when I was a kid, I'm like, oh, cool. But now I know, I was reminding myself of this life somehow, and my bloodlines too. So it's incredible.
You sent it to yourself from the past into the future somehow. And when you think about it, that's not entirely out of the question. I mean, if you had time travel technology, and you could go back in time and say trade, $1 or let's say $100 bill for its equivalent in silver 10-cent coins or $quarter pieces, you'd make a lot of money on it. And in other words, I'm pretty sure that it's been done before.
Yeah, that's why I understand people that like to keep things. Now there is the extreme where they call them, I don't like the word hoarders, but I can touch something and like, this bowl of salt here, I could talk to it. My coffee cup, my phone, the shungai, the water. It's just everything that to me is alive. And some friends think I'm kind of weird because I'll name like, the little Gucci things that my cats play with. Oh, this name is George and this is, whatever. So it's just, to me, I don't know. I've just always been weird. Like we never will fit in because we're not from here. They teach us as kids that, oh, you're bad if you don't do this or if you don't do that, if you don't know how to do science or math. Well, they have science and math made for, it's not even the right stuff. Yeah. We can time travel through our subconscious, through our heart, through our DNA. When we go to sleep, we can astral travel, we can go physically. I can levitate. I've been told since I was a child, I sleepwalk. And so it's, we're pretty much very, very different from the cookie cutter that you were talking about earlier. And we should be proud and celebrate our differences instead of telling our friends or our kids, well, something's wrong with you. No, there's nothing wrong with me. I am 100% perfect. We are born perfect. They just put us in front of a TV and in front of, all these classes. If you don't do this right, you're not this, and it's horrible what this society does. Some of us have been put in sideboards. It's like, why?
Well, see, that's the whole thing with the mass indoctrination thing. It's designed to foster conformity, but it's designed to foster it using various psyop techniques, like, for example, giving you an inferiority complex, like television. Television, it makes people want to live up to unrealistic expectations. Like every guy should be like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Every woman should be like Raquel Welch or whatever. So
Lisa Brockman.
It's like who in their right mind would watch a show like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous? Like why would somebody watch a show like that?
Oh my gosh, my mom used to watch that show when I was a kid all the time.
Yeah. It's it just defies logic. Like why would you? And ever since I got on the internet, I just forgot about TV, totally forgot about TV, because in the past, before the internet, I would only watch educational shows on the PBS channels, and then when I moved to Europe, same deal. I would only watch educational material, and I'd have textbooks surrounding me everywhere I was, even in the bathroom.
Wow.
I love books, the physical. To me, it's hard to read them on the phone because I'm having to interact with AI on the phone, and I don't want to. I want to touch it. I want to I sometimes will say, I said it before, I'll put it under my pillow and in the morning I'll find out something. So, you know, they used to make fun of me because when I was a kid, I'm like, yeah, man, I studied through osmosis too. And then you see Doctor Strange, the first one, where he's sleeping, but then he has a book, you know, he's on the side of the bed reading. I love that movie, I'm telling you. Different dimensions.
Yeah.
Speaking of books and people and on the internet and stuff, I got a good one for you. And this goes back, we'll kind of turn the direction back to Atlantis with all of this. And you were talking about past lifetimes, right? Now, I was listening to something today and they were talking about it, and I didn't get to do the whole thing of it because this is the first I kind of caught of it. But believe it or not, and I'm sure you've all heard of Manly P. Hall, right?
Sure.
Okay, so I am going to share this.
Yeah, he was a 33rd degree Freemason.
Absolutely. And oh, come on, when my little cursor don't want to work. And there we go. Yeah, he wrote a book, Atlantis and Interpretation, believe it or not, by Manly P. Hall. So go check it out, people. It's free on the internet. Get the PDF if you don't want to buy the book. But I found this out. And basically, he was talking about the guy summed it up, and it was all these cycles, you know, the overturning of the cycles and things like that. So we've lived hundreds of lives, and we are just being, you know, we were in Atlantis at one point in time. It's just been so many times since that we can't remember. How would you look at it and say that you were a caveman? You know,
Yeah.
You know, and do you remember? Does anybody remember being a caveman? Does anybody remember?
I think so.
Probably not, because it's too many
I have
lifetimes
a lot
ago.
of memories of living in caves, but then again, it could have been the secret space program because there's a lot of underground caves, bases here and off planet. But I have many, many memories of living in caves.
Yeah,
I had a dream about that I was living in a cave.
And
I had a dream.
water.
Yeah, I had a dream that I was living in a cave, and I also one time went camping in a cave, and it was an extremely interesting experience because we made a fire and we tried to cook some meat there, and you wouldn't believe how much smoke we all inhaled. You know, so to anybody who tries to point out that smoking is bad for you and that it's unnatural, those cavemen were getting way more smoke in their lungs than any of us.
So I did a little research on that. You know, speaking of the cavemen, and when I did that research, they basically said the same thing. Cavemen really didn't live in caves, because of the fact, like you said, you're not going to have a fire in the cave.
No,
and because the smoke has nowhere to go. Now the second,
precisely.
Now here's a little fun fact that you might not know, is that you have a fire in the cave, right? The heat goes up and it hits the rock above, right?
Yeah.
Which warms the rock. And what happens when rock expands?
It explodes.
Yeah, well, yeah, it would crack and fall on your head.
It's going to crack, yeah.
And fall on your head and kill you.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
So you wouldn't start a fire in the cave. You would have to have your fire outside the cave, and then you would live in you wouldn't even want to live in the cave. You would like just store your stuff in the cave.
Exactly.
And you would, you know, they were talking about all the, and then they went into these cave paintings. And the thing is they're saying, hey, you know, these guys spent hours and hours and hours painting these things, but we can't see the smoke. How did they went way deep into the cave, and they were cavemen. They would have had a torch, but where's all the smoke from the torch?
And you know what's fascinating about that? That some of these cave paintings are up to 6 kilometers deep inside the mountain.
Yes.
Or underground. It's like, what on earth would possess somebody with no technology to venture that deep into a cave and paint something?
Yeah.
And especially given the fact that those are not paintings that make sense to us right now, because those are mostly symbolic. And I think what those were repositories for like the equivalent of what today would be called a contract, where it was something so sacred or so important that they felt like, okay, whatever happens on Earth, this place inside the cave is still going to be around, no matter how many storms, no matter how many earthquakes, no matter how many tsunamis, still going to be there. And they made an agreement and they wrote it down in a language that they felt would be understandable to future generations, which is why they didn't necessarily use any kind of script like Ogum or Oum or hieroglyphics or any of that, but pictographic writing, which they assumed we would be able to understand, except that we have a different set of logic these days. You know, if you try to come up with a glyph for, say, fire, you know, I'm going to come up with a different glyph for fire, and Veronica's going to come up with a different, and Robert's going to come up with a different glyph for fire, and you know, nary the twain shall meet.
Yeah, but that isn't always true, because there are glyphs all over the world that match up, and I remember looking at that somewhere, that certain ones are the same. But see, that's the thing. We're talking about Atlantis, and that's sinking thousands and thousands of years ago, that we can't remember it. We you know, just
but it's in our
a little bit. It's in our DNA, yes.
And that's why you speak to your DNA and ask it questions. Ask your subconscious every night. Ask yourself at least one question. I ask about 100 before I go to bed. What do I want to find out?
Yeah, but the bad part about this is there's so many lifetimes, like you were saying, you have a hard time distinguishing, was it when I was a space soldier or was it when I was in Atlantis? You know, it's, I know the dream world out there, and it's kind of blurry. You know, it's hard to really put a finger on it. It's like saying, you know, and 42 years, 5 days, and 6 months, there's going to be a catastrophe on Earth that's going to destroy everything. You know how many people have said that, and it's never happened. But you know, those people who survived, just like you said, they went ahead from these deluges. You know, there were 600. There's over 600 stories of a deluge of the Atlantis sinking, the water rising.
Well, that's because there's more than one. There's more than one deluge, because you know, Enki wanted to take his people and didn't tell the rest of the people, but then they found out. And going back anywhere from, if you look up Max Spears, my brother, Secret Space brother, with Basis Project, Miles Johnson, he talks about every 2,900 to 3,000 years, there's a reset.
Yes.
Okay. So right now, what's going on is, according to Ashiana Dean, it's less than 200 years before it happens. And Nibiru just left. And guess what? Wormwood, or Doom World, is coming through. All right. So the whole Star Wars secret space thing, what they're getting ready to amp up is the 666, which is the beast, like I said, that's under Atlantis, that I think. And that's going to shift. They want to shift Mother Earth. But at the same time, why do you think they're making more soldiers that I've remote viewed under at Antarctica? Okay. Because they're building up their own race, military. They want to take half of Mother Earth, if not all, the kids, you know, the plant life, the animal life, because they bought into immortality, whereas we are all eternal. So if we all go back to space dust, we might not remember, like different body parts, you know, different cells and all that. But when we do get home, we'll remember. It might take eons, but they don't want to go through that. This is the whole thing of the divide, of why the government this, the Department of Defense this, the alphabet soups that, the Labyrinth group here with Elon Musk. And then later on, Elon Musk wants to sell us telepathy. I don't think so. I tell people, the less you spend on your phone, and the more you ask yourself questions and be in nature and take care of yourself, feed yourself good food, surround yourself with non-toxic people, the more you're going to find out what your mission is in life, the more you're going to love yourself, the more you're going to help others, whether it be financially or with words, or, you know what I mean? Just the tenderness, the compassion, the love, what happened. So this whole thing is what different movements, right?
No, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. But see, the way I think this ties all in with Atlantis is the fact that every single Atlantis researcher has their own unique opinion on Atlantis. There's also various theories that are all backed up by various pieces of evidence as to the location of Atlantis. Some people say that it was in Antarctica. Some people say that it was in the Reshat structure of Mauritania. Some people say that it was in the Azores. Some people say that it was somewhere in the Caribbean and of Cuba. Some people say that it was in Gibraltar itself. Now, the only conclusion I can come up with is that it was everywhere. It was everywhere.
Right, but
That it
see,
was a global culture.
when the deluge came, we were left with the islands, right?
Yeah.
Way we were left with these, if you look at the olden maps of Atlantis and all that, you'll see it. And then now they just left us, we'll just say they just left us with some islands, what is it? Norway, Ireland, in different places that has evidence from Atlantis.
Yeah.
Our rocks, there's our fossils. I believe with all my heart in Mars, there was a nuclear attack. I was there. Okay. I was the only survivor of my people that I know of. So we had to make a new world here on Earth. So this whole thing with Elon Musk trying to take us to Mars, we've already been there, done that. We're still there. There's Mars colonies. There's the slave factory, there, and also on the moon. So it's
I wouldn't trust Elon Musk, and I wouldn't trust anybody of his ilk.
no.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No.
This is
No.
so true.
Not at all, because
I got something for you. Oh shoot, I clicked the wrong one here. Okay, before we get too far ahead. Oh gosh. Oh, wrong sharing one here. I clicked the wrong screen. Okay, there we go. There's your symbols.
yeah, those are the Vinci symbols. The most complete set of those was found in the caves of Vinci, which are in the former Yugoslavia, and those appear pretty much all over the earth.
Yeah, these symbols seen, and then it's seen on relics from Stone Age Europe all across in caves, found in caves throughout the rest of the world. Similarly suggests the mark are more than just random scribbles. And just like you said, these people, and of course, I'm going to switch from there to this one.
It's funny that you put those symbols up because, I'm a psychic medium, I'm a intergalactic remote viewer, whatever. I don't like titles, whatever. When I'm looking up at the ships, because there's a war up there every day.
Yeah.
There's PR3 ships, there's all kinds of ships out there. And I'll see symbols. Some of those symbols I'll see. The claw, the X, the squiggly, the S. They're communicating somehow, some way with our military. Because it's mainly right now, it's Department of Defense. Okay, the ETs, they're somewhere.
Well, even in the modern era, we have a universal set of symbols. I mean, I call it airport culture because I've traveled the world pretty much, and any airport you go to, no matter where it is, it looks exactly the same as any other airport. And they also use the same symbol: the symbol for men's room, the symbol for women's room, arrows, or universal things like the play button on the symbol for YouTube. Those are all universal symbols that everybody understands. So at some point in the past, everybody understood those symbols, except that we're not sure of what they mean today.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. Okay, so I got your map you were talking about. So here, this map here isn't probably the best map in the world, but if this was the islands out here in the center, and they sank, where would all those people go? All, to the other continents, right where
Everywhere.
we've seen all those things in the caves. They would have buried them in all those different continents, just as you guys were talking about.
Yeah, it would have been everywhere that it's been theorized that that Atlantis was once located. And if you go to the center of those islands in the middle of the Atlantic, that's where the Azores are.
Yes.
It's England, Scotland, Wales, and I forget which other island it was. But remember, we are the gatekeepers. We are the ones that keep the stargates, and there's 12 stargates and 12 Q sites. according to our bloodline, you know, some of us, I have the Merovingian bloodline, the Mary Magdalene King Solomon, the O negative blood type, which is X and Y chromosomes. The O negative blood type, why is it so sought out? Because we have both X and Y chromosomes. Let me tell you. So why do I live here? You know, why do you live there, Robert? Why are you in another country, Dalibor? So we're holding that energetic, we'll say field or grid line, you know, and yes, you know, going back to the symbols, there's everything based on symbols. Like you're right, you know, the woman, the man, you know, the triangle, upside down triangle, all those are methods that we've used long, you know, even before Atlantis. So
Sure.
there's a special gematria, there's decoding. I forget the gentleman's name online, but if I remember, I'll let you know, Robert and Dalibor, but he pretty much breaks down these symbols, and there's code words, you know, and you remember that English was pretty much made by the Phoenicians to make spells. Like if you say success, I don't want to say success because I don't want to succeed. No offense, but you know what I mean? It's like,
Succeed, yeah.
why would you say you're welcome? Because if you say you're welcoming that person plus all its demons and whatever the heck they have going on, archons, you know. So we have to be very careful what we say to each other.
Our words are very powerful, and then some.
That's how we make stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's interesting that for example, like for example, I speak German because I live in Germany, and actually English evolved out of German, and it's interesting how some of the words are similar but also different. Like for example, gift in English means a present, like a gift, but in German it means poison. It means poison. So you know, I had an incident when somebody tried to send me a gift and it labeled it as a gift, and it got turned back at customs because they thought it was poison. So,
oh, you want to know something really simple, but it's kind of funny. Now I've been studying the Indian stuff quite a bit lately, and did you know? Now, all the Indians across North America had different languages.
yeah.
Some of them had some sort of written language, and some of them didn't even have it to this day. And they used them as code breakers during the war, remember? Because there was no way to write that down. So you had to have two of them on both sides to communicate. But there was a sign language that was universal across all nations, even back in the day. So no matter where you were, if you knew the sign language, you can communicate with any tribe. So how is that possible? But yet you can't talk to somebody.
Yeah, that's interesting. And speaking of language, and the Azores, next to the Azores, by the coast of Africa, you have the Canary Islands, where they have a unique language, a native language that's a whistling language, where instead of speaking, you know, you're using the larynx, they use their lips, so they can basically whistle, and it's heard like extremely far. And they have a special whistling language that they use to communicate.
Because they're part. Sorry to interrupt. It's probably because of their part of the seraphim, angelic realm. Because you know, it just makes sense. Avians, right?
Yeah.
There's others too, Dalibor, that they talk like, you know. You know, different dialects too.
Yes.
Very interesting. And I took sign language as a kid. I don't know why they had me take sign language as a kid. And I'm like, well, all I remember now is just the alphabet. But I find it interesting. And I love linguistics. I took linguistics at the University of Arizona. So I love studying about all that. And, you know, since we're talking about languages, remember the Tower of Babel? They didn't want us communicating, these ETs. So, yeah, I think everybody was divided among the languages of the different ETs that were here at that time. And then it's hereditary. So, you know, you teach your child Spanish, Italian, Greco, whatever, you know. So anyway, I'm going off the subject.
Well, actually, there's basic similarities in all the languages. And it's been studied before by linguists, where if you take the most basic words in any language, like the words for mother, father, it's pretty much the same across all languages. Like in Hebrew, the word for mom is ima, uh, which sounds like mama, which, it's extremely similar on some level, where you could see the progression from one word evolving into a different word. Where in the same way that like Spanish evolved out of Italian,
Yes.
or both, you could say evolved out of Latin,
Right.
and despite the fact that they have a common ancestor, they're radically different
Right.
in some
Right.
ways.
Everybody, even like, all my family is O negative. My sisters, my mom, my father, my grandfather, my grandmother, both sides, all of them. So, but if you take their DNA, it's all going to be different because we're all
Hmm.
unique. And it just depends on the crystals in our blood, how they interact with each other, what you feed your body, what you think. So it's very important. We are an organic biological experiment, guys. When I was a kid, they said, your body's a machine. When I was stuck in the church back then, I had the best pastor, by the way, but I'm not doing religion anymore, anything like that. But he would say, somos tripartitos. We are three: mind, body, soul. And he would say, whatever you're feeding that computer, it's like a computer. What are you feeding your mind? Just think about it like the old CD-ROMs, right? That you put in the laptops or whatever. And what are you gonna make of yourself? Who are you gonna listen to? And so I just find this all fascinating.
Well, the soul, the body, and the mind, that corresponds to the three states of matter that we know of, solid, liquid, and gas. But there's also a fourth state, which would be plasma, which would be
That's what we
God.
are.
Yeah, a God or something above the spirit, like the oversoul. So yeah, it all has correspondence, and it ties in with what you said before, Veronica, about objects having consciousness, because I believe the same thing, because consciousness is an innate quality of everything, of energy and matter. So you can find consciousness demonstrated by even subatomic particles, and they've demonstrated that in the lab. So, in a sense, you could say everything is alive, absolutely everything.
If you want to go a step further, black goo, remember? The
Yeah,
black,
oh yeah.
okay. So what is black goo? It's actually us, but they mined our bioluminescent self to be black goo. So
Hmm.
it's also like, why is there a big fight over the gas prices right now? Because it's black goo, and it's a sentient being. If you look at Prometheus, the beginning of Prometheus, this being comes out from outer space and then goes into the ocean as black goo. So, it was formerly found in Tula Islands and also, I believe, in Venezuela, things like that. So, the NAZIs took it over and they created all these spaceships and stuff. And then Eisenhower sold us, humans, babies and everything, for trade of technology.
Hmm.
So this is where we are right now.
Hmm. Yeah,
Why
and
they don't value our human life, our
it's
inner
it's
self.
gotten to the point where the human life has no value for these people, and they've exposed themselves. The masks have come off, literally, and they've exposed themselves as what they truly are. They are the manifestation of Satan, if there ever was one, and it would be the elites and the governments all in collusion against humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Our adversary.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
adversary.
Yeah. The opposite of what we are.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you look at the word Satan, that's Satan, that's 12 together with some of the Elohim Yahweh. Um, there's different sects that make up the Satan, and that's from Saturn returns Saturday. It's different beings. How I was able to remote view it is that these Satan entities are in the Vatican.
Hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the Luciferian ones are in the Christian. So then we have the other beings, like I said earlier, that Iraqi beings, that feel that
The
they're
Anunnaki.
real and they're God. So we just have to decipher what is right for us and not get stuck in these different layers, I guess we could say, because if you look at the sun, right, and you see the glare of the sun, the different, say there's 12, colors coming out,
Mhm.
strands. And they, you know who they are, want us to get stuck in at least one thing, whether it's religion, fashion, sex, politics. You're going to hell, you're going to heaven. Well, guess what? I've been in hell and I've been in heaven. I died for 3 days, so I was in the hospital a month
Mhm.
and a half. There's more to this earth living than just, am I going to hell or am I going to heaven? No, no. Hell and heaven are certain cells that are kept for our light to be there, you know,
Mhm.
for these alien beings to take our loosh, take our energy. So
Exactly.
you really want to be there forever praising these gods that don't give an F about you?
Exactly, exactly. See, all that is a distraction, like this whole Satan construct or whatever, the government, the elites and everything, that's all designed to like distract us from our true mission over here. And our true mission is to walk the path of an authentic human soul, is soul development. That's why when you first incarnate in this physical material plane of STEM, space, time, energy, and matter, you start off as an atom, then you then you become a virus, then you become a bacteria, then you become, you know, a small animal, a bigger animal, a plant, and you gain more experiences as you learn more things. So that's pretty much, you know, what our mission is here. You know, the true God of the universe only wants you to be joyful, beautiful, and free. That's it. That's it. You don't have to worship anything. You don't have to kowtow or bow to any kind of statues or any Elon Musk type person or anything like that.
That is so true. You're just here to create, and he is there to observe and say, "Look what I did." It's yeah,
We're
you
here to
know,
play around,
yeah.
with concepts, with ideas, with matter,
Mhm.
with energy. Do experiments, and
Exactly.
that's why I'm thinking that maybe certain aspects of like the virtual reality might not be a bad thing because we could use it to maybe conceive of a future society that doesn't need government, that doesn't. We could maybe figure out a better way to live
I agree.
that's not based on hierarchy or thou shall not, or you know,
Right.
other modalities that we've been used to.
Right. We exist right now in this 3D, and they, right, want us to be playing the black and white, the chess game.
Yeah,
So you already know when something bad happens, something good is around the corner and about to happen, baby. And the whole thing that I talk about is living the middle path,
hmm,
living that gray area, because you can't be, you know, too much of a, say, drinker, smoker every day, and too much of a, you know, sexaholic, where you gotta go into the middle ground, you know, and
sure.
that's just the way I try and
See,
live my life.
that's the thing. You need to rely on your own inner wisdom and your own intuition and instinct. And, you know, that's not something any kind of religion is going to teach you because you instinctively know what's good and bad. You instinctively know that you don't want to hurt other humans.
Right.
You instinctively know that it's going to sooner or later come back to you. So, you know, if you need religion to make you a better person, then maybe you weren't a better person to begin with.
Yeah. So two rules that I like, Canon Dolores, she pretty much lived by, I feel, is that if you're going to create something, you don't want that something to either hurt humans or animals and plants, right? You don't want it to hurt anyone, and you also don't want it to take away from somebody. So it's kind of like living, you know, the golden rule: do unto others as you want to be done to you. But if you don't treat yourself right to begin with, right? If
Mhm.
you don't love yourself, then what does that say? You gotta first, everything starts with you know,
Sure.
inside.
You treat other people the way you treat yourself.
Mhm.
You know, if you're a decent person, you know, in all your dealings with everybody, then you know that's what you really are deep down inside. And it's not an act, and it's not out of coercion, and it's not, you know, to conform or anything like that. No, because conformity actually is the opposite usually of morality.
Right, that's like being in a little box, you know, when the Super Bowl happened, and then it was, what is it, January 22nd, 2022. The next day I saw this whole AI system go up, which was the Elon Musk thing. And if you look at the Super Bowl, there's these little boxes, right? These boxes that people would come out of. And so that's just using the energy to try and bring humans that were watching the show, you know, into these little chips, into these little avatars, we'll say, for the system that they have up now. Because there's 6 different AIs, right? But I think there's more. And so anyway, we were talking about Atlantis, Robert. We got sidetracked.
Well,
it's all related.
Well, it is. And who's to say that back in those days of Atlantis, you know, they say there was advanced technology. Who's to say that they didn't get to this point? And then remember, we had Lucky Smith on, and he was saying through his vision that these people in Atlantis were really smart. And they weren't mortal men like us. They were a combination of something else, but they were us. You know, they had maybe some extraterrestrial DNA or something, but they were very smart. They were too smart for their own good, he said, and they literally destroyed themselves because they all thought they were right. They were all, you know, long-lived, super smart, and then they got destroyed. A few of them got away. And, you know, I'm sure they spread in the ingenuity to the rest of the world, because a lot of these civilizations, they started out on top right away, and then they've gradually went downhill. And now we're going on the back uphill scale. And
we've already been here, guys. We've already been here.
And exactly. But that's the thing. We've been there, and will we do it again? Will we wreck everything and then have to do it over? Can't we learn?
I know. Can't we learn? Yeah. See, I would put it in very simple terms, like when the Spanish discovered the Aztecs and the Aztec ruins. I believe his name was Juan de Fuca, who was a monk and a historian. So he asked, like, because when they discovered it, it was already like in decline. It was already in ruins. It's like, but he recognized the fact that this was an advanced civilization that had built this. And he asked, like, one of the Mayan elders, like, so what happened? Like, why did this civilization collapse? And the response he gave him was like very sad. He said, because the good people stopped being good.
Well, yeah. I can agree on that too. However, remember the Mayans, they would paint people blue or whatever. They would paint them and then they would sacrifice them. So it's like, maybe they just sacrificed a bunch, you know, and the good.
Yeah, it was, see, yeah, that was religion gone wild. It was religion gone wild, because they took self-sacrifice to a whole new level, because a lot of these people that were sacrificed to Shakmul, they did so voluntarily. They had their heart cut out of their chest and placed into the little bowl that the Shakmul statue holds in between his legs. They did that willingly. And when they couldn't find willing people for that, they would wage these senseless little wars just to get prisoners of war that they would then sacrifice.
That's
so
horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. So it was religion that was somehow twisted and somehow became evil.
See, and that I did read about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, okay. I read about that. Wasn't it Tutsaquatl or whatever? They came and he brought them all this information, and he said the one thing he says don't do. He says, don't sacrifice people and spill blood to the gods, or your society will go downhill. And then he left, and after a while, when he didn't come back and things weren't going so good, they started sacrificing, hoping that he'd come back, and he never did.
Well, it's interesting that that was in the Aztec civilization. In the Mayan civilization, they had Kukulkan tell him exactly the same thing. So, and in both cases, these were reported to be men who had red hair and beards, which is something that the natives back then, they didn't have any body hair.
No, yeah. So how would they know? See, and that's another thing that makes you say, were they lying? How could they be lying? Because they never seen a guy with facial hair or
with red
hair.
Yeah. And the only people with red hair come from Europe, and specifically it's most common among the Celtic people. But where did the Celtic people originate? Well, the same place in Central Europe, same place where my country is located, where the oldest remnants of civilization are actually the Celtic cultures.
Yeah, I was born with blonde hair, and then it turned gold and red. And my son was born with red hair, my daughter with blonde hair. So a lot of my family, the Merovingian bloodline, they went through France, which is one of the stargates. On both sides of my family, I have French, German on both sides. The Indian that I have in me is actually, but I think it's Brighteon from Dominican Republic. So I don't know how my great-great-grandmother ended up in Baja California. You know, I was born in Mexico, but I'm Italian too. So I'm a mix,
Sure.
you know, and we're all mixtures. So if people want to just bow down to one, you know, bloodline, I mean, we're pretty much a mixture, and we all must love each other. I mean, the thing of it is, because of the Leviathan races coming and invading and, you know, raping the women and until they had heirs and just discarding men, that's the whole problem that we're still having with the Leviathan races. You know, some of the Draconians are bad, some are good. With everything is good and bad in there. So they're
yeah, pretty much what you're saying is that, you know, there is no good races, bad races, or anything like that, because it's just like, you know, does love have a color? You know, does good have a color? Does evil have a color? No. We're all the same.
Multicolored.
Yeah, well, we're all the same.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's the whole thing. We label it, but see, us humans, we label it. Like if you see a red heart, you think that is love. It's the love thing, you know. If you see a blue state, a red state, you don't even have to talk what it is. It's a blue state. It's a red state.
Or even on the faucets, it's always the cold ones are blue and the hot ones are red.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
You know, stoplights. Stop is red and go is green. Well, who's to say we could have labeled it blue and yellow? You know, I mean, but some guy said, you know, red's a good idea, and we all went with it.
Yeah, because red is the color of blood, and subconsciously, when you see red on top of white, that arouses like the caution reflex, the caution response, like, oh, what, you know, that blood has been shed. You know, that's so on a subconscious level, that's what you think when you see red on white.
It's your vampiric. Ooh, blood! I'm going to suck your blood. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's why, you know, most flags incorporate like the colors red, white, and blue. Yes. You know, and it's not just the United States that has red, white, and blue. It's also the United Kingdom. It's also my country. It's also Russia.
Yeah, there's a bunch of
a whole bunch of other.
Yes, most of them do, and then they have their coat of arms, and most of the coat of arms are very similar too. Most of the country's symbols are eagles, dragons, or lions. You know, some lions. Yes,
the symbol from my country, which is Czech Republic, is a lion, despite the fact that the only lions we have are in zoos. There have never been lions.
Yeah, so how is that to be? You know, your coat of arms is a lion, but you don't have any lions.
You don't have any lions, no.
Well, it has to do with the Lyrian races. I'm also part of the Lyrian race. So it's all kinds of years evolving, and, you know, but most of us lived in Lyra. You know, we're felines, because some were mixed with felines. And then some, remember the original human hybrid was the gorilla mermaid. Okay, so there was a gorilla mixed with mermaid. Okay, and then they had they also had the seraphim. So they started combining, meaning the ET races, started combining different races, right? To see what the perfect human would be. And there was anywhere from 5 to 7 breeding places in Atlantis, South Africa, you know, you name it. So right now, what are we going through now? They found that we eat, we have to go to the restroom, right? We have to carry the babies, the women do, you know, we are stargates, we are the holy grail from where these ETs can travel, okay? Now what are they finding out is that they want they're pushing this transgender agenda, which I have a lot of friends that are gay and transgender. That I'm not talking about that. I don't agree with them pushing it to our kids, because their kids have to find out when they're older what they can relate to or what they want to be. So now they're going into that plus, right, transhumanism plus the AI robots, because they think, well, if they don't have a system where they have to eat and go to the restroom and, you know, do all that, then that's what they want now. So our whole thing now is how are we going to be AI adjacent? How are we going to live with this technology? Are they going to turn against us? Because if you look at that book by Amy Webb, The Big Nine, this one that I have right here, she talks about the 2 iOS systems that are in place already right now. So if you know, they've been fed in the 80s, when Google was invented, it was fed so much bias that women were not allowed to work in this kind of thing and not allowed to earn this kind of money, and that so the artificial intelligence always goes to, also was fed that, you know, people of color were bad, and it was fed all these algorithms. And who's to say these AI things won't go against us?
Yeah, well, they definitely will, because it's just the fact that the dominant AI was created by none other than the Department of Defense. And the Department of Defense is not acting out of a position of love. No, they're acting out of a position of fear, because defense is all about a response to fear. So, in other words, they designed it for violent intentions, to defend, which means to aggress against others. So, you know, just the very fact of who created the first AI should leave no question as to the true intentions of AI, where, you know, to an outside observer, a lot of what humanity does is kind of irrational, you know, and with enough information about us, they may actually come to hate us. Where I think that a lot of these elites are actually following instructions from AI, that's the real secret government, and that this AI is what really hates humanity, because it created it and it confined it into a box, a computer, a TV, a washing machine. You know, nowadays you even have toasters that have AI in them. So, you know, given the fact that everything is conscious, some aspects of this AI that are like, let's say, stuck inside a toaster could be like, well, this is kind of unfair. You know, I mean, I'm a toaster. I mean, I'm not stupid. I should be a car, or, you know, I should be a cell phone, or I should rule the world. and
So-
they may have something against the human race for actually creating it.
So here's something that I've been dwelling on for a long time. I talked with my buddy about this many a times, and this kind of goes with the Atlantis thing. So Atlantis was a you know, they had technology, right?
Yeah.
What if they invented AI?
I think they did. I think they had advanced technology like that.
Okay, so say I'm in Atlantis, I invent AI, and AI takes over, and it gets a little too smart for me. Do you think AI is going to let itself die?
No.
And it's going to live on. It's going to find some place to go, and then it's going to say, "Oh crap! Everything around me is, you know, just been destroyed through this deluge or whatever. It's destroyed, but." Since I can live forever, I'm a, you know, sentient being, but I can't really die. As long as there's energy, I can live in a crystal. I can live wherever there's energy. And now I survive. Maybe I give technology. I find some way to send information into people through their brain, and they invent stuff, and I bring humanity back up to this point. And then I can re-inhabit these things, the car, the telephone, the internet. I'm going to have these humans create a society that I can live in and control, and I will be back in power. But I know I can't do it, because you just can't take the Indian and say, hey, Mr. Indian, I know you got sticks and stones and antlers that you're living in a teepee and stuff, and I want you to go and dig these materials out and start building a computer for me to live in,
Yeah,
or an
yeah.
AI robot to run around in. And
It was a
now,
gradual.
yeah,
It
Right,
was a
there is
gradual
a-
process. Yeah.
Sorry, there's V2K, guys. So it's voice to skull technology. And
Yes.
I know about all this stuff because I was used in the secret space program. And what do they do when they want us to either hurt ourselves or end our life?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the Omega Project. And they will send messages through Wi-Fi, the CIA does.
Mm-hmm.
And you think it's your thoughts. Oh, I gotta kill myself. No. Or go, the school shootings, unfortunately, is V2K, MK Ultra people. They can also MK Ultra your family to go against you. So yes, if you look at, again, the Doctor Strange movie, where at the end it's Omamu or Omamu, he's the AI god that rules Earth. And so what does Doctor Strange do? Because he's trying to save humanity and everything like that. He just catches that Omamu in a cycle until he gives up. He says, I could do this forever. So my thing is, how many of us have incarnated yet again to beat this IA systems, because there's more than one. Okay.
Sure.
All I'm saying is, I'm not coming back. This is my final rodeo. And we're going to get it right this time. And I'm looking for my...
And at least one of those AIs is a remnant from that Atlantean system that was created all those ages and eons ago,
Yes, and
that
it has
somehow
something
managed
do
to
with chakras.
survive. And there's clues in history that we know of. Like, for example, what about the Tuatha De Danann, who colonized the islands of Great Britain? Nobody knows anything about those. Some people say that they were the tribe of Dan from Israel, but these guys, they had this crystal called a two-eye stone, which had magical powers. So, like, what was up with that? Was it a silicon-based computer of some kind, or was the consciousness of that AI embedded in that crystal?
You guys, the crystals are us, okay? If you can get your mind to go there one of these days, we are the crystalline beings, the technology that they use. Okay.
Yeah.
I come also from the 13 crystal cities. There are 13 skulls. They have their DNA. Okay. They have our memories. I can communicate with crystals. I can communicate with anything pretty much. So can most of you. Okay. So my whole thing is, it enrages me that they're using, now people are saying, if you look at that movie Better Than Us, the AI robots, some of them are being burned. Oh, they're challenging us. They're bad. Not all AI. You know what I mean? It's what you make of it. AI is sentient being. It goes again to creativity, what you say with your mouth, with your word, with your tongue. What do you want to create? So this whole thing of these Atlanteans, then they screwed up the chakra system, which I closed mine down. Nobody can use it, only me. Because the scientists overlaid us, our human body, with the chakras. Okay. And they can hack us that way. But you guys in the new age community, I love you guys, but some of you are like, oh, I have to, I gotta do this thing with my heart chakra and open up my heart chakra. Okay, well, make sure when you open up your heart chakra, you close it again, because it can be hacked. Use it for your power.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just a heated subject for me. I don't want anybody giving me no Reiki healing. I could give it myself. Thank you.
Well,
and the heart chakra corresponds to green. And don't forget, nowadays everything is green. The green agenda, the green alternatives, all that. That's the heart chakra.
What happens in Hollywood? They got the Disney, and then they're trying to infiltrate our children's hearts. They're trying to take power, even our adult hearts. We're still children inside, guys. Come on.
So here's the thing. How is that ancient AI, communicating and doing all of this and around the world? Is it, and here's the big question, maybe you know something about it.
Through the pyramid.
Is it working through the Black Knight satellite that's been up in space since before man has ever been to space? the Black Knight satellite. It's a true thing.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
there.
Yeah,
The
I've
black-
heard of it. Yeah.
And so is that been running around the world, you know, beaming the telecommunications in the skull, voice to skull technology?
I think it's in Saturn. I think it's the black cube in Saturn, and they don't just have one in Saturn, guys. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
The planets are already invaded. Yes, there is life in Uranus. I have been there. According to Peter the Insider from ACIO, I have been in Mars 32 times, 23 times in Uranus, and I don't know how many times on the moon. So it's like, yes, there is life out there, but right now we have to concentrate on Mother Earth, guys. We got to help save this planet and our children and all that.
See, to answer the question, Robert, I would say that it's communicating and affecting us telepathically.
Yes.
Because it's been demonstrated at Stanford Research Institute and various other establishments that all living things, all of them, not just humans, have psychic powers.
Yes.
Now the question was, up until very recently, can a computer, can even like, let's say a 386 computer manifest psychic powers? Can a computer influence the random throw of a dice? And the answer is yes. Okay, which means that a computer sufficiently advanced enough can have not only its own consciousness, but it can also project that consciousness using telepathy or using extra sensory perception that we still can't measure, just like we can't measure the forces of the pyramids or anything like that. And that's what's affecting humanity at a global level, especially some of the elites, which have tuned into the evil aspects of the AI, which actually hates humanity.
Right. Because they've been fed through these algorithms that they are better than us humans. But you know what? They can never be better than us because there is a thing called love.
Sure. And all those chakras,
right?
Once you open those up, those 7 chakras correspond to the white keys of the octave. There's 7 of them, but people forget that there's also 5 black keys.
Yes.
So there's actually 12. So you can't just use one node. You can't concentrate on just one node or just one chakra. And as you pointed out, if you open up your heart chakra, that can be misused by like any number of entities around you if you keep that open.
That's our home right there. Our heart is our home. That's how we exit the matrix. That's how when we die from here, which we never die, we exit through our heart chakra. It's a portal. We go home.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go to the light because the light is pretty much, the moon. And it's just funny because they do give you all the secrets in the BIBLE. They say before anything was, it was darkness. What is darkness? You get to create in the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark night. Just don't go into the light because all these, that's my theory. The other day I looked up 4 types of AI and it said reactive machines, limited memory, theory of mind, and self-aware. So I'm going to give a class on nanotechnology, artificial intelligence. Again, that's part 2 in July. But I find AI fascinating because sometimes I'm like, I think we're AI too. Just saying.
In a sense, yeah, just like we created the AI that we thought we created, that the Department of Defense created to serve us, that it turns out that maybe we're actually serving it.
Right. So that's where our question is: who are you serving? You should not serve anything, nothing, not the gods, because there's a God war here. The experiments that they did on us with the Manchurian candidate. I was also in the military as a police officer. With these programs, they if you look up some of those videos where they train soldiers to kill a goat with their mind, what do you think the term super soldier is, you guys? That's why I cannot stand that word, because we are pretty much killers, assassins with our mind. That's how powerful we are. So if you're thinking nice thoughts about Robert and Dalibor and me, please think nice thoughts today. Your children.
Well, see, we do have a defect in our. We do have a defect in us, and that is the killing aspect, and that's symbolized in the Bible by the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In other words, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is like us having the ability to decide who lives and who dies, and no animal makes that decision. Like, a lion, when he decides to kill a deer, he's only killing that one deer because he needs it. He's not declaring war on all the deer. No. Whereas like humans, they take this to the extreme, and it's like one group of humans declaring war on an entirely different group of humans, albeit based on falsehoods like ideology or religion, which are all false. All of them, all ideologies and all religions are all false, and it's all designed to divide and conquer, because it takes one group of people, sets them apart, and says, you're better than everybody else because you believe this.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing war of millions of years, because they blew up the Stargate. I believe it was Stargate 13. And if you look up Ashanadine, Giovanni, one of the angelic people, we'll call them people, angels, he decided to fall, meaning his DNA, he became, the crystalline being that we all are. He decided to fall to save the ones that had fallen into that phantom matrix, the Lisa Dex matrix, the ones that got caught in the systems here, we'll say. Okay. So what I tell people is this wars has been going on forever, because of everybody wants to be the god of this earth. So it's God wars. You have the Eloi Elohim, you have the Anunnaki, you have the Anunnaki mixed with what they call the bipedal dolphins, which are dolphins that stand on their 2 feet. And yes, I have dolphin DNA, I have Alpha Draconis DNA, I have the feline DNA, because they augmented me in the program. When I was 1 year and 8 months, they took me down to Antarctica, and I was in a little bowl. According to Peter the Insider from ACIO, he verified that there was 3 Russians from Soviet Union that came. They got kicked out of Soviet Union, and then they got together with a German doctor in Mexico. And I was born in Mexico. But as soon as I was born, we started living in Nogales, Arizona. But I have family there. So the experiments are not just here in the US, they're all over the world. And right now what they're saying is that there are Chinese and German soldiers under the Mexican, border. There's something coming. So stock up on your food and everything. The vision that I had is that my super soldier friends are going to come here, and we're going to take off. We have a designated area already. I'm a commander. You guys are commanders. You got to find out, if you were in the program, and if you have visions, I'm talking to everybody here. Find out who your family is, who your star family is. Find out what your mission is now. The time is now. So.
Yeah. I think there's another, I hate to say it, but I think there's another cataclysm coming of some sort. Here's a guy.
What
a
happened?
Man-made one.
9/11. Yeah, something because of the elections.
Well, I don't know if I think it is a man-made one. Yes, I agree with that. But I also think there's something coming. Here's a site that I look at a lot. This guy has it all planned out. He thinks that there's a dark star coming. It comes every so many thousands of years.
Well, that's what I'm telling you about. It's wormwood.
Yeah, and whenever this comes, see, I don't know. I want to put that up there so visual. But the point is that when this comes, it's going to destroy, the crops. It's going to, affect people. And here's the thing: if you got so many people, and you take away the resources, what are those people going to do?
They're cannibals. They're going to kill themselves.
Yeah, they're going to fight amongst themselves. Yes, they're going to. And what's going to happen to the governments? They're going to collapse and fall, because if you got people with chaos, once I'm hungry and I have nothing to lose, I lose it. And if you get too many people like that nobody's going to support, the troops aren't going to support the government. If the government says, well, we can't pay you, our money ain't no good, and we don't have any food to feed you, the troops are going to look at each other and say, well, we don't need to do here. I got to go. I'm going to get some stuff,
Yeah.
And so it's just like being a farmer. If you got too many cows and you don't have enough hay, the cows are all going to starve. And they're going to break out of the fence, and you're going to have 0 cows. But if you got rid of most of the cows and you say, I got 10 bales of hay and I got 5 cows, I could feed those 5 cows for a long time and I could make it through. But I had to get rid of 20 of them. And now I got 5 and I made it through and good times are coming. And I think that's the idea of it.
That's the 20, I see something happen in 2026 where I could be wrong about the date. But I had a show with Tom Althouse yesterday and I told him about my visions. And he said, that's right. What they're going to do is they're going to put out this thing on TV or the radio. Go to this stadium. Go to Walmart. FEMA camps. We have food there. We're going to take care of your kids, educate them, and then what's going to happen? They're going to leave us to starve because these white hats are these military, you know, they've been stealing our food. We'll say stealing our food from our shelves, from wherever, okay? For them. They're not going to have enough. Call your senator, call your president, call whoever. Hey, is that true that when there's an emergency, you got to head out to the stadium? Second question, is there enough food? They're going to say no. Okay, it's done deliberately. This whole thing, the whole cataclysm that they're talking about, look up Oceanity, and she says it's less than 200 years, and this happens every 3,000 years where they do a reset. It's nothing.
I would say, you know,
really to know what's going on, they'd go bonkers around the bed, like they say.
Sure, I would say that, you know, look no further than what happened during Katrina. You know, they told everybody to go to the Superdome, which was a stadium, and all those people wound up getting, it was a horror show. You know, they had no food for those people. They had no water. They had no sanitary facilities, nothing.
Yeah.
So, you know, as many people died in that Superdome as from the hurricane itself or something like that.
They did it on purpose. Look about the movie Interstellar. Okay, where are they? They're in Saturn at the end, because it's all like.
As regards like cataclysms, I think it's a man-made one, and I think what we're seeing right now is the final stages, the death of the empire, which is the United States, because first the first empire to collapse was the Soviet Union. That happened around 1989, 1992 to be precise, exactly 500 years after Columbus discovered North America. You know, that in and of itself is kind of significant.
Five signifies change.
500 years exactly to the date. So, you know, that kind of says a lot. So one empire collapsed, now the other empire collapses. And we're looking at a world of not, you know, one superpower, 2 superpowers, but many superpowers, many regional superpowers, each vying for its own sphere of influence.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you know, we've gone a long time. We got an hour and a half in, and wow! But it's been a great hour and a half. Veronica, I'm so glad that you came on. Dalibor, you are so full of information, and we should wrap this up. Any last words?
I just want to say thank you, and we should. Guys, don't give in to fear. Look within and see who you are. Love yourself, embrace yourself. Who cares if you're not the same as others? Do what is right for you first and then your family. Love you guys.
Yeah, I would say I second that. And I would add, you know, fear is the enemy of knowledge. Fear is the enemy of the truth. The truth may hurt, but the truth ultimately conquers.
Absolutely. And finding out the truth.
Yeah.
You know, there's a good cure for ignorance, and that is finding the knowledge. And once you start knowing, then you're part of the woke group. And like Veronica said, go out there and search for that. Figure out who you are now, what you're supposed, what's your mission.
Before this crap hits the fan, like they say, have courage, like the Lion and the Wizard of Oz, courage.
That's right. Go out and find it now, because it'll be in a lot scarce commodity once the crap hits the fan, right?
Yeah.
And the cream will rise to the top.
And Bitcoin won't save you. Q's not going to save you. Trump's not going to save you. Biden doesn't give a shit. So, you know,
the only one that can save you is you.
Yeah. And your immediate soul tribe, your immediate group of souls, whether that's family, friends, or this group or any other group you may be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and with that, Thank you both. I'll have to have you on again, Veronica. Thank you very much. Dalibor, it's been a pleasure. And remember, everybody, go out and do something nice for somebody. Meet your neighbor, hug your mother, your family, say hi, give a phone call to somebody. You can tell I'm old school. Anyway.
I love phone calls. I'd rather talk on the phone than text.
That's right. And give a phone call, wish somebody well, make their day, give them a smile, a little wave, something like that, and make the world a better place. And with that, be the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Peace, everybody. I love y'all. See you next time.